After undergoing the memory-erasing surgery, I forgot the boyfriend I had loved for 10 years. Forgot the sister I raised with my own hands who later stabbed me in the back. Forgot everything about the capital. I traveled alone to the south and opened a small flower shop. Everyone thought I had only left in a moment of anger and would return soon, until a strange customer pushed open the door of my flower shop. She stared at me in shock and asked, "All these years, why have you never contacted Jonathan? Do you know he waited for you for 5 whole years?" I replied blankly, "Sorry. I had a memory-erasing surgery. Who is Jonathan?" The moment the words left my mouth, silence fell all around. An inexplicable panic rose in my chest. I subconsciously turned my head. Outside the window, in the heavy, brooding night, a man's eyes were red as he stared at me intensely. Chapter 1. In the 10th year of my relationship with Jonathan, he cheated, and his cheating partner was my younger sister, the one I had personally raised. When I caught them kissing, I slapped Jonathan without hesitation, and then Laura pushed me down the stairs. As I tumbled down, a sense of grim inevitability surged within me. Everyone around me eventually gets taken away by Laura. Laura is my father's illegitimate daughter. When she was 13, my mother, during a manic episode, killed my father and his mistress. Since then, at 20 years old, I became Laura's sole guardian. I was busy at work and could only bring her to the company. The little girl was warm and outgoing, like a small son. My friends and colleagues went from rejecting her to gradually liking her. "Your sister is much more likable than you." I heard people say this more than once. Now even my boyfriend of 10 years thought so too. When I woke up in the hospital, Jonathan was sitting by my bed. He said, "That kiss was just an accident. It won't happen again." As for Laura, she is your sister after all, and still so young. Don't hold it against her, okay? I lowered my eyes and suddenly laughed. "You're telling me all this because you're afraid I'll kick Laura out, right?" He froze, gripping my hand tightly. "Alicia, I know you're still angry right now. It's okay. I'll stay with you until you calm down." I pulled my hand away and turned my back to him. Behind me, he sighed, as if I were a stubborn child. The phone rang. I clearly heard Laura's voice through the receiver. "Jonathan, I'm alone at home and so scared. Can you come back and keep me company?" He murmured a few soothing words, then told me, "Something urgent happened at the company. I'll be right back." Before I could respond, he rushed out the door. That was the last time I saw him. I lay stiffly on the hospital bed, staring at the brochure. New memory erasing technology helps you forget 99% of your troubles. I've always been decisive. Once something becomes tainted, I never take it back a second time. So whether it was Jonathan or these 10 years of love, I didn't want either anymore. When I walked out of the operating room, my brain felt foggy. The past was shrouded in mist, and I became a calm, rational outsider. Following the address on my hospital records, I returned home. The moment I opened the door, I heard a chorus of blessings. "Happy birthday, Laura!" When I walked into the living room, everyone was singing happy birthday around Laura. Her eyes were filled with tears as she hugged Jonathan in delight. A friend noticed me and coughed softly. The whole room instantly fell silent. After a moment, Jonathan asked awkwardly, "Alicia, you were discharged so soon? Why didn't you tell me? I would have gone to pick you up." I avoided his hand reaching for my bag and said flatly, "It wasn't peaceful at the hospital. I might as well come home." At these words, everyone in the room looked embarrassed. My longtime friend Zoe stepped forward to smooth things over. "Alicia, perfect timing. Today is Laura's birthday. All of us chipped in to buy a gift. Since you're her sister, you should be the one to give it to her." Before I could react, a delicate little box was pressed into my hands. I stood frozen, then chose to accept it and handed it to Laura. I had been Laura's sister for many years. Giving this gift could count as fulfilling the affection of those years. The moment the gift left my hands, Laura reached out, but she still dropped it. The box fell open, and the beautiful glass bracelet inside shattered into pieces. Seeing this, Laura's eyes brimmed with tears. "Sister, you still won't forgive me? It was just an accident last time. I didn't mean it. I was so worried while you were hospitalized." Seeing her cry, everyone hurried to comfort her. their gazes toward me filled with accusation. Alicia, you're the older sister. How can you still be mad at your younger sister? It's Laura's birthday today. Can't you let her be happy just for today? I looked at the people scolding me. Standing in the center, looking at me with disappointment, was the fiancé I had loved for 10 years. A roaring sound filled my ears. My vision blurred, and I could barely stand. All right, don't blame Alicia. She just got discharged. Jonathan walked to my side and said gently, "Don't hold it against Laura. She's just a child." He picked up the box from the floor and handed it back to me. "She just didn't catch it. Give it to her again. You two will need to get along in the future." His voice was tender, but the hand on my shoulder pressed down with hidden force. I took a deep breath and stepped away. No need. She and I most likely won't be living together anymore. Actually, I came back today to pack my things and move out. Chapter 2. The moment I finished speaking, Laura burst into tears. "Sis, are you trying to kick me out?" She looked helplessly at Jonathan. "Jonathan, what do I do? You promised me." Jonathan patted her head to comfort her, then turned toward me, impatience showing between his brows. Before I could explain, my friend's accusations drowned out my voice. "Alicia, you're going too far. You want to kick Laura out. Where is she supposed to live? She's just a young girl. What if something happens to her out there? Do you really have the heart?" Zoe looked distressed as she pleaded for Laura. "Forget it, Alicia. Look at how sad Laura is. She's still so young." I looked at Zoe, feeling nothing but desolation. Back when she lost all her savings to a telecom scam, I gave her every cent I had saved so she could have a place to stay. Back then, her eyes were full of gratitude. She hugged me and said I was her best friend. Now, she stood opposite me, condemning me for the sake of a sister who kissed my fiancé. "Zoe, no matter how close we are, this is my family matter. Besides, I'm moving out anyway. This house." Before I could finish, Jonathan interrupted me. "That's enough, Alicia. Zoe is just speaking up for Laura. Laura is your sister. This house belongs to her too." While gently comforting Laura, he glared at me. "Let's be honest, you're still holding a grudge about what happened between Laura and me. But she's still young. If you have an issue, come to me. You don't need to take it out on her." My explanation lodged in my throat, unable to come out. Laura timidly approached me, grabbed my hand, and pleaded, "Sister, please don't be mad at me. I promise I won't talk to Jonathan at all anymore. You're my only family." I didn't speak, but a sharp pain suddenly shot through my hand. Instinctively, I yanked my hand away. Laura was flung aside and fell onto the floor. I reached out to help her, but Jonathan shoved me aside. "Don't touch her." It was the first time I had seen him lose control like this. A sharp ache pierced my heart. "Jonathan, my ankle hurts." I think I twisted it. Jonathan immediately picked her up and glared at me. "I'm taking her away. You need to calm down and think carefully." His Adam's apple moved as he added, "Alicia, I'm really disappointed in you." My fingers trembled faintly. I sniffed lightly, trying to ease the tightness in my nose. Everyone around us stayed silent, but their eyes were full of reproach. They suggested taking Laura to the hospital, then celebrating her birthday elsewhere. Before they left, a guy who had been chasing after Laura deliberately said loudly, "If it weren't for Laura, I'd never come to this crappy place." Some people just can't stand that Laura is more popular than them. An old woman competing with a younger girl, so disgusting. Jonathan paused slightly at those words, but he didn't turn back. He silently carried Laura away. Chapter 3. After they left, I immediately contacted a realtor to sell the house. The realtor was confused, saying the location was good and the value would only increase, advising me not to rush. I only smiled and shook my head. After the realtor left, I sat on the sofa and murmured, "Grandma, I'm leaving. I couldn't keep the house. Don't blame me." My phone vibrated. It was a message from Jonathan. "You left your necklace at my place. When will you come get it?" He attached a picture, the 10th anniversary gift he had given me. A custom Chomet piece, the ruby at the center gleaming with fire. The necklace was beautiful, yet stirred no emotion in me. I replied calmly, "Just keep it for now. We'll talk later." After sending the message, I fell into a deep sleep. When I woke, Jonathan was sitting by my bed. His voice was hoarse. "You're awake. I came to check on you, and to bring your necklace." Without sitting up, I took the necklace and placed it casually on the table. "Thanks. You didn't have to come this late." He shook his head. "This necklace has a special meaning. Seeing it makes me think of everything we've gone through. All the storms we survived together, and now we're fighting and giving each other the cold shoulder over something so small. It's not worth it." I also remembered the past. How he once drove in the middle of the night to bring me medicine when I had a fever, almost getting into a car accident. How a monk had predicted I would live a lonely life. He knelt and cowed out all the way to pray for me at the temple, forehead swollen and knees bleeding, closing his eyes in earnest. "May Alicia live in peace and have a fulfilled, happy life." When I was diagnosed with uterine cancer and could no longer have children, he got a vasectomy and confronted his mother. Everything had been so good back then. I pulled back my hand. The bruises and needle marks on the back of it were still visible. He ignored them completely and said to me, "Laura is having a hard time at the hotel. She got diarrhea from eating takeout and ended up in the hospital. Let's go pick her up, okay?" I asked flatly. "Pick her up to live where?" "Jonathan, I told you, the house is being sold." He frowned. "When? Why are you selling the house for no reason?" I sighed. "The day of Laura's birthday. I told you, I'm moving out." He pressed his lips together tightly and didn't respond. After a moment, he stood up. "Get some rest. I'll go check on Laura at the hospital. She shouldn't be alone while she's sick." I waited until I heard the door close. Then I got up and removed his fingerprint from the door lock. Returning to the bed, I lay down and closed my eyes. I didn't sleep the entire night. When morning came, a wave of dizziness hit me, and I bumped into the nightstand. The necklace fell to the floor. Worried it might have been damaged and difficult to return, I picked it up to inspect it carefully, then saw an engraving on the inside. "Love Wex. WX, Laura." The owner of this necklace was obvious. I opened my safe and found my actual necklace lying inside, engraved with WJS. I stared for a long moment, then suddenly laughed. I laughed until my eyes turned red. So our anniversary was also their anniversary. Chapter 4. The realtor quickly helped me find a suitable buyer. After completing the formalities, I took the money from the sale and moved into a hotel. Other than going for my treatments on time, I just went out for walks. It was as if Jonathan and Laura had already faded from my life. During this period, I felt a peace I had never experienced before, until Jonathan called. "Get to the hospital, now. Immediately." I actually didn't want to go, but thinking that I still hadn't clearly broken up with him face to face, I got up and went anyway. As soon as I arrived at the hospital, I saw everyone gathered around a ward. Jonathan looked at me, the disappointment in his eyes so strong it was about to overflow. "Tell me, why did you do this to Laura?" "Laura has always suffered from depression, and you even had people go to the hotel to threaten her. What were you thinking?" He gripped my shoulders so hard it hurt to the bone. I tried to get him to let go, but he ignored me completely. Everyone watched how he was treating me, but no one stepped in. Among them were the good friend I had lent all my savings to, and the subordinates I had once helped. But without exception, they all looked at me with hatred. It wasn't me at all. I haven't even seen her during this whole time, and I only found out today that Laura has depression. Zoe couldn't help speaking up. "You still dare say you didn't know? If you didn't know, why did you, as her guardian, refuse to let the doctor give Laura her medication? If Laura had taken her medicine on time, she wouldn't have been pushed over the edge. And you're still arguing? Do you have any idea Laura is almost dead?" Only then did I see Laura trembling behind Jonathan. "Laura, what's wrong with you?" At the sound of my voice, Laura jolted, then went still again, her head hanging low. I walked closer, wanting to see what was going on with her. Unexpectedly, Laura suddenly screamed and shouted, "Don't come any closer." Then she started wildly grabbing whatever was next to her and hurling it at me. I didn't have time to dodge and was hit head-on. A big gash split open on my forehead, blood pouring down. Jonathan immediately stepped in front of Laura, shielding her, and yelled at me, "Get out! You're not allowed near her." I drew in a deep breath, pressed my hand over the wound, and walked out of the ward. Through the glass, I saw him carefully applying ointment to Laura's hand. Everyone was comforting her, saying the bad person had already left. I turned away and called a nurse over to ask for some medicine and bandages. Seeing my face covered in blood, the nurse was so frightened she immediately took me to get stitches. While they were still treating the wound, Jonathan came to find me. When he saw the gauze on my forehead, he paused for a moment. Laura's mentally unstable. She really didn't mean it. Don't take it to heart. I shook my head. It's fine. I'm not going to hold anything against a patient. You're the one who's exhausted. Taking care of a patient is hard work. He froze, clearly having come prepared to argue, but now suddenly at a loss for words. As long as you can understand. Does the wound still hurt? Is it serious? He moved as if to step closer to check my injury, but I instinctively backed away, avoiding his hand. His hand stalled in midair, then fell weakly to his side a moment later. Before he could speak, I said on my own, "What happened to Laura wasn't my doing." He reflexively shot back. "Those people who came to cause trouble already said it was you. Who else could it be? Are you saying Laura scared herself on purpose?" I faltered for a moment. "If that's what you choose to think, there's nothing I can do. I came this time mainly because I had something to tell you. We should Brea." Before I could finish, Zoe ran over from not far away, panting, "Something's wrong. Laura woke up and didn't see you. She's having a breakdown." Without the slightest hesitation, Jonathan turned and ran toward Laura's ward without saying another word to me. I watched his retreating figure and silently said goodbye in my heart. In 9 days, it would be my final memory-erasing treatment. By then, I would forget everything. I turned to leave, saying a complete goodbye to 10 years of love and along with it, to the painful, turbulent first half of my life. But before I even made it out of the hospital, someone grabbed me from behind. Before I could struggle, a sharp pain exploded at the back of my head, and I lost consciousness. Chapter 5. When I woke up, my head felt like it was splitting apart. I struggled to sit up, only to realize I couldn't move at all. Lowering my head, I saw my body tightly strapped down by restraints. At that moment, the door opened. Jonathan slowly appeared before me. He didn't speak. He just looked at me with a complicated expression. "Jonathan, let me go." He shook his head. "Alicia, Laura suffered severe psychological trauma. The doctor said the chances of recovery are very low." "So what?" "I told you. What happened to Laura has nothing to do with me. I have no reason to do anything to her." The last trace of guilt vanished from his eyes. "You're still being stubborn, refusing to repent. Since that's the case, I won't show mercy. You should experience how hard depression treatment is. Think of it as compensation for Laura." After saying this, he signed the consent form the doctor handed him. "Thank you, doctor. You can begin." I watched as the doctor prepared the electroshock device, my eyes nearly tearing open from fear. I shouted Jonathan's name at the top of my lungs. He didn't turn around, nor did he hesitate. He simply opened the door and left. I watched as the doctor approached me with a twisted grin, holding the device. "Miss Alicia, right? Someone specifically asked me to take good care of you. Don't worry, I guarantee that when you walk out of here, not a single piece of skin will be broken." I watched as he slowly brought the device toward both sides of my temples. Then suddenly, an electric shock exploded through me. "Ah!" A scream tore free from my throat. It hurt. It hurt. It hurt! I wanted to struggle, but I couldn't move. I wanted to question him, curse him, but when I opened my mouth, I found I didn't have even a sliver of strength. 7 days later, I was released. My expression was vacant. Even when Jonathan appeared, I showed no reaction. Softly calling my name, he draped a coat over my shoulders. "Alicia, I'll take you home." My face remained blank. I tossed the coat onto the floor and shook his hand off. He looked at the coat on the ground, unable to describe the emotions on his face. "I know you're angry with me, but you have to believe me. I did it for your own good. Everything has a price. I can't just let you bully your sister. Alicia, I will make it up to you." I didn't reply. It didn't matter anymore. Saying anything was useless. I didn't want to see him again. I was trying to think of a way to make him stop following me when his phone rang. Through the speaker, I clearly heard Laura's sobbing voice. Jonathan. I'm really scared, really. Jonathan didn't have time to think. I'll be right back, he said before hanging up. He looked at me, wanting to say something. I said lightly, go. I can take a taxi myself. He hesitated for a moment, but ultimately chose to rush back to the hospital first. I took a taxi to the treatment center and underwent my final memory erasing session. After I closed my eyes, the nurse spoke gently. Miss Alicia, relax. This is the last treatment. I hope this is the last time I see you here, and I hope the rest of your life will be filled with spring. I didn't respond. In the final second before the anesthesia took effect, a single tear slowly slid down from the corner of my eye. Chapter 6. These days, Laura's condition kept relapsing again and again, leaving Jonathan mentally and physically exhausted. He never found the time to go look for Alicia. He knew Alicia resented him. He also knew it would be very difficult for Alicia to forgive him. He thought she only needed time. After all, Alicia loved him so deeply, she wouldn't leave him. 10 years of love, Jonathan had confidence in that. But when Laura's condition finally stabilized and he nervously came to Alicia's home, opening the door with apprehension, he found that his fingerprint no longer opened the lock. He was stunned, but still knocked on the door. Alicia, it's me. I know you're still angry. Please give me a chance. The next second, the door opened. Jonathan's heart leapt with hope. Who are you? A completely unfamiliar girl poked her head out, watching Jonathan warily. Jonathan froze, stepped back, and checked the door number again. No mistake. Suppressing the rising panic in his chest, he asked, "Hello, where did the previous owner go?" The girl remained alert. "Oh, you mean the former homeowner? She sold the house to us and left. No idea where she went. She said she was going to switch to another city." Jonathan's ominous feeling became reality. Did she say which city? The girl shook her head. Jonathan returned home in a daze. Welcoming him was a bouncing, cheerful Laura. "Jonathan, you're finally back. You don't know how long I've been waiting. Where did you go?" Jonathan looked at the lively, innocent girl in front of him, but for the first time, he felt nothing. Once, he thought Alicia was too independent, too strong, too quiet and reserved. It was Laura's brightness and sunshine that relieved his fatigue after a long day. Now, as Laura smiled up at him, he couldn't feel happy at all. His heart and mind were filled only with Alicia. "I went to look for your sister." Laura's eyes flickered slightly upon hearing the word sister. She asked tentatively, "So, what did sister say? Did she forgive me?" Her eyes turned red as she spoke. "I'm worried that sister still minds what happened before." "Did sister blame you?" "I've troubled you so much lately with sister's temper. She definitely won't calm down easily. Do you need me to apologize to her?" Jonathan waved his hand weakly, exhaustion dripping from his voice. "No need." Jonathan's attitude made anxiety rise in Laura's chest. She nervously pinched the corner of her skirt. "What's wrong?" "Jonathan, am I causing trouble for you?" Jonathan took a deep breath, feeling like even speaking required strength he didn't have. Alicia left. Laura almost couldn't believe it. She suppressed the joy bubbling up inside her and asked, "She left? Where?" Hearing her question, Jonathan's eyes reddened, tears welling up. "She left this place, without leaving me a single word." "Alicia, his voice choked. "She doesn't want me anymore." His suppressed emotions finally burst at this moment. He shed all pretense and cried out loud. In that cry there was regret, sorrow, and a trace of despair. He could try to find her with effort, but Alicia's love, he had lost it forever. He once thought Alicia's love for him was like plain water, dull, tasteless. Only when he truly lost her did he realize she had already blended into his life, becoming a part of him that could not be separated. Chapter 7. Laura looked at the man in pain before her, and the joy in her heart was uncontrollable. Her hands trembled slightly with excitement. Alicia was finally gone. That eyesore, that woman who used the title of sister yet overshadowed her everywhere, she had finally disappeared completely from her and Jonathan's world. From now on, Jonathan's eyes would only hold her. She would become Jonathan's rightful lover, perhaps even his wife. However, Laura's joy did not last long. Just as she expected, Alicia's departure took away all of Jonathan's vitality. But instead of transferring his emotions to Laura like she had hoped, he rapidly fell into collapse. Jonathan began drinking heavily. He no longer went to the company regularly, and even when he did, he was often reeking of alcohol. After work, he either lingered in bars or bought piles of alcohol and returned to the apartment to drink himself senseless. The confident, composed, elegant boss he used to be was gone. In his place was an unshaven, hollow-eyed, utterly disheveled man. Laura had already moved into Jonathan's apartment under the excuse of needing someone to take care of him. Every day, she carefully dressed herself, prepared meals, and tried to use tenderness and attentiveness to awaken Jonathan. But Jonathan couldn't see any of it. Whenever he came home, he often didn't even bother changing his shoes. He ignored all her preparations, ignored her sweet smile, and walked straight into the bedroom, throwing himself heavily onto the bed. Then, under the influence of alcohol, he would sink into a half-conscious state, mumbling the same name over and over again. Alicia. Alicia. I'm sorry. Come back. Please come back. Every time she heard that name, Laura's smile stiffened, and the hatred inside her grew. She had done so much, even pretending her depression had worsened just to gain sympathy, and the result? Alicia was gone, but like a ghost, she still clung tightly to Jonathan's heart. Laura couldn't even get close to a drunken man. Whenever she tried to approach him, to let something happen, Jonathan was either completely unconscious or, worse, he would push her away even in his daze, muttering, "Don't touch me," or, even more devastating, "You're not her." Frustration and jealousy gnawed at Laura's heart like venomous snakes. That night, Jonathan was once again so drunk that his friends had to carry him home. Laura struggled to support him into bed. He collapsed without awareness. Still murmuring Alicia, Laura stood by the bed, chest heaving, her gaze sharp and dark as she stared at Jonathan. She had given so much. Even personally pushing Alicia down the stairs, was it all just to end up with a walking corpse? A man whose heart would forever belong to someone else? No, she would never accept that. A wild idea formed in her mind. She turned and walked out of the bedroom, went to the liquor cabinet in the living room, and poured a glass of water. Then, from a hidden compartment in her purse, she carefully took out a small paper packet containing some white powder. She'd gotten it from certain friends. Rumor had it that it could make people lose control. She hadn't planned to use something like this, but Jonathan's attitude left her with no choice. As long as she made the rice cooked and the meal done, with Jonathan's sense of responsibility and her manipulation, there was no way he wouldn't take responsibility. Laura poured the powder into the water, gently swirling the glass as it dissolved quickly, colorless and tasteless. She took a deep breath and carried the glass back to the bedroom. "Jonathan, drink some water. You'll feel better," she spoke softly as she helped the dazed Jonathan sit up. Jonathan, half unconscious and parched, drank the entire glass from her hand in one go. Watching him swallow it, Laura's eyes flickered with triumph and nervous excitement. She set down the glass and patiently waited for the drug to take effect. Minute by minute passed. Jonathan's breathing seemed to grow heavier, and his brows furrowed slightly. Laura knew the moment had come. She reached out with trembling fingers to unbutton Jonathan's shirt, her heart pounding wildly in her chest. This time, she had to have him. Once tonight passed, Jonathan would belong to her forever. Chapter 8. The next morning, Jonathan woke up with a splitting headache. The sunlight was blinding. He instinctively raised a hand to block it, but his fingers touched something warm and smooth. He froze completely. He opened his eyes abruptly, his heart instantly plunging into an icy abyss. Beside him, Laura lay naked in his arms, curled up and sleeping soundly. The bed sheets were messy, and the room was filled with a hazy, intimate scent. And on his own body, he was also completely unclothed. Just as Jonathan's mind went blank, unable to comprehend how this had happened, the bedroom door was gently pushed open. "Laura, we came to see you." The door wasn't locked, so we just came in. "We brought you." Zoe's cheerful voice stopped abruptly. She and the friends behind her stood frozen at the doorway, staring wide-eyed at the scene on the bed. The gift in Zoe's hand slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a loud thud. Laura jolted awake. Seeing the people at the door, she let out a short cry, grabbed the blanket and wrapped herself tightly, her face flushing bright red. She shyly hid behind Jonathan, yet in her eyes, there was a faint flash of triumph. Jonathan remained completely still, his entire body turning cold. He watched Zoe and the others' expressions, shock, then complexity, and finally a look of knowing mixed with understanding and blessing. Every explanation he could have given was stuck in his throat, caught in the act. No words could save him. Laura began to sob at the perfect moment, her shoulders trembling. Looking helpless and pitiful, Zoe sighed, stepped forward, and spoke in a voice filled with reproach and resignation. "Jonathan, look at what you've done. Since things have already come to this, Laura is a girl, you can't just abandon her." "That's right, Jonathan. Laura has waited for you for so long." Before leaving, her sister even entrusted her to you. You two were supposed to be together anyway. Voices overlapped, one after another, pressing down on him like shackles. He looked at Laura hiding behind him, appearing weak and frightened, and then recalled the farewell letter Alicia left. "Take care of her for me." A suffocating, nauseating sense of fate wrapped around his throat. He closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, and when he opened them again, there was nothing left inside but a dead, resigned emptiness. "I will take responsibility," he heard his own voice, dry and hollow, devoid of the slightest emotion. Chapter 9. Laura finally got what she wanted. She insisted on holding a grand and dreamy wedding, wanting the whole world to know that she was Jonathan's rightful wife. Jonathan didn't object. He fulfilled all her demands like completing a task. The wedding was extravagantly luxurious. The gown was the most expensive custom design. Guests flooded the venue, and the media reported it everywhere. On the wedding day, the church bells rang gently. Laura wore a pure white wedding dress, smiling radiantly as she held Jonathan's arm and walked down the petal-covered aisle. Below the stage, Zoe and the group of friends applauded hard, faces full of blessings. It wasn't easy, but Laura finally got her day. Yeah, Jonathan should move on. Alicia will be comforted in heaven too. They're a good match. Laura is so lively, just what Jonathan needs to be happy. Jonathan stood before the priest, listening to the familiar vows, but his eyes were empty, fixed on a point in the distance. His thoughts drifted far away. Once, he used to imagine countless times what his wedding with Alicia would look like. He imagined how she would look in a wedding dress, surely cold yet breathtaking, like a lily under moonlight. He imagined the shy warmth of her hand when she placed it in his. He imagined them exchanging rings, promising each other a lifetime. And now, standing beside him in a dreamy wedding gown, was Laura. Below them, receiving blessings, were friends who once blessed him and Alicia. Fate was cruel. What a colossal joke. "Mr. Jonathan, do you take Ms. Laura as your wife, to love and cherish her in good times and bad, in wealth or poverty, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" The priest's voice pulled him back to reality. Jonathan remained silent for several seconds, feeling Laura's nervous gaze beside him and everyone's eyes fixed on him. He opened his mouth. The word "I do" weighed like 1,000 pounds. Finally, he heard a flat, emotionless voice push itself out of his throat. "I do." Those 3 words felt like the final verdict on all his past love and hopes. The noisy wedding finally ended. Jonathan dragged his exhausted body back to the new home. Laura was still in the living room, chatting excitedly with Zoe and several bridesmaids, reliving the details of the wedding and showing off the huge diamond ring on her finger. Jonathan didn't want to participate. He headed upstairs toward the study, but at the corner of the stairs, he heard faint, deliberately lowered, but clearly smug, voices from the living room. It was Laura's voice, tinged with a drunken looseness and unrestrained delight. "Zoe, today was amazing. I finally beat Alicia. Everything she used to have is mine now." Zoe laughed in agreement. "Yeah, you really had the skills, but it was close back then. If you hadn't been smart enough to fake the depression and get that." Jonathan could no longer hear the rest. Fake depression. Got that letter. The word struck him like a bolt of lightning. His blood rushed backward, his body frozen, hands and feet turning ice cold. He held his breath and silently moved a little closer. Then he heard Laura's derisive laugh, her tone dripping with contempt and malice. "Ha! Why should Alicia compete with me? My parents' love was mine, and Jonathan should be mine too. That death certificate and farewell letter, I spent a fortune to make them look real. You didn't see Jonathan's face back then. He looked like he was dying of pain. Ha ha ha. He actually believed I had depression. But speaking of that, Zoe, it's thanks to you too. At the hospital, you helped confirm that I was driven into depression by Alicia. Zoe giggled. Oh, don't be polite. Now that you're Mrs. Jonathan, just don't forget me. Congratulations, Mrs. Jonathan. Ha ha ha. Yes, I'm Mrs. Jonathan now. That bitch Alicia, who knows where she's hiding to die slowly. Or maybe she's dead already. Whatever, she can't get in my way ever again. Jonathan couldn't hear anything after that. He stood in the shadows, feeling as though thousands of arrows had pierced straight through his chest. His entire world spinning and collapsing. Fake. It was all fake. Chapter 10. In the shadows. Jonathan's fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His nails dug deep into his palms. Sharp pain slicing through, but it was nothing compared to the overwhelming fury inside him. Fake. The depression was fake. Being forced by Alicia was fake. That farewell letter and the death certificate, the ones that had weighed on him like a crushing chain, were also fake. He had been a complete fool, toyed with by Laura and Zoe, and had personally driven away the woman he loved most. Worse still, he might have indirectly caused her death. Laura's casual line, or maybe she's really dead, stabbed into his heart like a poisoned ice pick. Hatred and regret surged through him with devastating force. He stepped out of the shadows abruptly, each stride radiating the murderous aura of someone risen from hell. The laughter in the living room stopped instantly. Laura's triumphant smile froze when she saw his ashen, twisted expression. Terror replaced pride in her eyes. Jonathan? Jonathan didn't look at her. His cold stare swept across Zoe first. Zoe trembled violently, the wine glass in her hand almost slipping to the floor. Get out. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable sense of destruction. Zoe and the bridesmaids fled in panic, stumbling and scrambling to escape the newlywed villa. The spacious living room was now silent, leaving only Jonathan and the trembling Laura. Jonathan. What's wrong? Did you drink too much? Laura tried to compose herself, attempting to step forward and help him. Jonathan violently flung her hand aside, the force sending her staggering and falling to the floor. He bent down, grabbed her chin hard, forcing her to raise her head. Speak. His voice was hoarse, like sandpaper grinding. The depression, was it fake? Laura's pupils shrank. She tried to lie. No. Jonathan, listen to me. I can explain. The letter and the death certificate, did you forge them? Jonathan didn't listen. His fingers tightened, making Laura cry in pain. In the hospital, those people who accused Alicia, were they arranged by you? And the last time Alicia was kidnapped and forced into electroshock, was that you? Each question fell like a hammer, smashing Laura's soul apart. Seeing the unrestrained killing intent in Jonathan's eyes, she finally understood. Everything was over. The gorgeous castle built from lies collapsed completely in this moment. Under Jonathan's near-mad interrogation and merciless tactics, Laura's mental defenses shattered entirely. She broke down in tears and confessed everything, from deliberately approaching Jonathan, to staging that accidental kiss, to pushing Alicia down the stairs, from faking depression to gain sympathy, to forging evidence to frame Alicia, from staging the fake harassment incident, to finally hiring people to kidnap Alicia and send her to that hellish treatment room. She spilled everything like beans from a broken jar. Every filthy, disgusting calculation laid bare. She cried and begged for mercy, saying she only did it because she loved him too much. That everything was because Alicia stood in her way. Jonathan listened, and only waves of nausea rose in him. He released her. Laura collapsed onto the floor, makeup ruined, hair messy, her whole appearance pitiful and humiliating. Jonathan's eyes held only cold disgust. Love? He let out a short, mirthless laugh, filled with mockery and despair. You think you're worthy of saying the word love? He stood up, took out his phone, dialed a number, and his tone returned to the ruthless decisiveness of a businessman. Come in, handle it, soon. Several men in black suits entered silently. Jonathan looked down from above at the trembling Laura and pronounced her fate. Laura is mentally unstable, suffering from severe and aggressive delusional disorder. Send her to Tranquil Island Sanatorium. Without my permission, she is never allowed to leave for the rest of her life. No, Jonathan. I was wrong. Please. Please forgive me, Jonathan. Laura screamed hysterically, struggling as she was dragged away. Everything she had painstakingly schemed for, the new villa, the title of Mrs. Jonathan, vanished in an instant. Jonathan confiscated all the assets, jewelry, and luxury items he had given her, leaving her only a set of hospital clothing. The place known as Tranquil Island was in truth a heavily guarded, isolated mental institution on a desolate island far away. There, day after day of isolation, medication, and treatments would drive even a normal person into madness. Laura would spend the rest of her life there, paying the price for everything she had done, in true, irreversible insanity. After dealing with Laura, Jonathan mobilized all the power he could muster and began a desperate search for Alicia. He checked every possible hospital record, searched every city she might have gone to, offered massive rewards, but Alicia seemed to have vanished from the world, leaving no trace. 1 year passed, 2 years, 5 years. As time went on, Jonathan's business grew larger, but he himself grew quieter, darker. He never approached another woman again. The position of wife stayed permanently empty. He lived drowned in endless regret and self-punishment, numbing himself only through work and alcohol. He remained trapped in the day he lost Alicia, forever unable to escape. Chapter 11. Another spring arrived. Because of a business collaboration project, Jonathan came to a warm southern town known for its flowers. After the negotiations ended, he declined the banquet invitation and walked alone aimlessly along an old street covered in blooming wisteria. The gentle sunshine, the light breeze brushing his face, the sweet floral fragrance mixed with the warmth of everyday life in the air. None of this warmth or peace matched the desolation inside him. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, his gaze accidentally swept across a small flower shop at the corner of the street. The shop had no name. The window was filled with colorful flowers, and hanging vines drooped lazily. Bathed in soft yellow lighting, a woman in a simple long dress stood with her back to the street, carefully watering a pot of gardenias. Her slender, familiar silhouette made Jonathan's heart abruptly stop for an entire beat. It was Alicia? He almost couldn't believe his eyes. Blood rushed wildly to his head, leaving him dizzy. He stood rooted to the spot, staring at that back, forgetting even how to breathe. At that moment, the shop door opened from the inside, and a man in a clean checkered shirt walked out, carrying an adorable cartoon water cup. He naturally walked up to the woman, handed her the cup, then reached out to take the watering can from her hand, his movements practiced and gentle. The woman turned around to take the cup and looked up at the man with a soft, relaxed smile. That face appeared clearly in Jonathan's eyes, the very face he had searched for years, dreamed of, mourned for. It was Alicia. She had gotten thinner, but she looked healthy, and in her brows and eyes was a peace, a serenity Jonathan had never seen on her before, a serenity that pierced him completely. She was doing well, in a world without him. She was living so very well. Mommy, Daddy, look at the flowers I drew. A little girl, about 3 or 4 years old, with tiny pigtails, held up a crooked crayon drawing and ran out of the shop like a joyful little butterfly, leaping into Alicia's arms. Alicia bent down, gently held the child, and kissed her rosy cheek. The cheerful man also stepped closer, praising the child's drawing while naturally wrapping an arm around Alicia's shoulder. A perfect, warm family of 3, a picture with no room left for anyone else. Jonathan stood across the street like a dull, forgotten shadow. All his years of longing, regret, apologies, explanations, all the raging emotions he had accumulated, were shattered completely by the warmth of the scene before him. He didn't even have the courage to take a step forward. He watched her smile as she said something to her husband, then carried the child as the 3 of them laughed together, walking in the opposite direction, farther and farther away. From beginning to end, she never once looked in his direction, never noticed the soulless man standing across the street. Jonathan parted his lips. The name he had screamed silently in his heart millions of times, but it dissipated soundlessly at the edge of his mouth. What could he even say? Tell her he was Jonathan? Tell her he regretted everything? Tell her he had searched for her for years? She had undergone memory erasure surgery. She forgot everything related to Beijing, forgot him, forgot Laura, forgot all the pain that tore her apart. She had a new life now. A peaceful, happy life. His appearance, his name, meant nothing to her. Were just meaningless symbols. Or worse, a disruption. He didn't even get the chance to say his name. Before he was completely excluded from her world. The evening sunlight stretched the shadows of the family of three, long and warm, merging together into a picture almost too dazzling to look at. Jonathan, in the end, did not move a single step. He simply stood there, watching her holding her child. And the man who gave her warmth and peace walk farther and farther away, out of his sight, and out of the future he longed for but could never reach. The warmth belonged to them. Jonathan remained forever trapped in memories only he remembered, memories he could never escape in this lifetime.